You have said that there are some similarities between performing in the Navy SEALs and going into Harvard. Can you talk a bit about the differences and the similarities in doing those things that you have done?
So I think, the biggest learning you can get out of doing um, something like this is so these experiences serve two purposes, right? So like obviously um, Marine Commando in itself is just an incredible unit, and what a lot of my friends who are still there um, are still doing is just incredible. I mean, they're putting their life at risk multiple times every year um, to provide a bit of that security that is needed in a society to well function. And obviously the public will know part of this through stories coming through the media, but it's just an incredible group of individuals. And I was just there for a little bit of time. I'm going to share a bit of that experience, but it's just an incredible group of individuals that are giving their entire life to the king and country, and ensuring that people can go about their life in a normal manner. So I have a tremendous amount of respect for the people who are still there, and they're doing absolutely insanely great job. And I think we have some of the very, very best special forces in the world coming out of Norway. Now, in terms of one of the things you realize when you go through kind of something like that, and you see it also in Harvard, and you definitely see it in entrepreneurship, is there are a few factors that you that is needed to succeed, and then there are some that you don't think about that often. But obviously, to be at Harvard or be in the Navy SEALs or be an entrepreneur, there are certain kind of skill sets you need to have to be successful at it, and you also need kind of a basic level of physical fitness for the military, a basic level of knowledge and intelligence, perhaps, to do the thing that you do at Harvard. And you need the same thing in entrepreneurship. But one thing that you don't think about that often is the grit factor of this, right? Which is, a lot of the people who made it through the selection process for Marine Commando are not necessarily the ones that were in the best physical shape going into it, but it was the ones that decided to never give up. It's the ones who decided that I'm going to do this no matter what. And I think in most tasks in life, that is even more important than all of those other things. And it's the same with kind of getting into Harvard and being at Harvard and doing well there. It's just like you need this mentality that you're just going to get it done. And I think it's even more important in entrepreneurship. Like one of the things we always tell our founders is, 93 or 95 or 99% or so, people disagree what the statistics is, but at least 90% plus of all startups fail. The vast majority of those really just fail for the wrong reason. It's not necessarily that the person couldn't pull it off. It's not necessarily that they weren't working on the right thing, but it's very often that they just gave up when life became too tough, right? And the best entrepreneurs out there, they just decide that, hey, I'm going to do this. And I'm going to succeed no matter what. If you go into an entrepreneurial journey saying, I'm going to try this out and then see if it works, and if not, worst case scenario, I learned something, then you know as a fact they will fail from day one. So you need to go in there and be 100% committed to succeeding and not accept failure as an option. And I think you need to do that in any kind of environment which requires as much of you. And Marine and the Navy SEALs definitely does that, right? If you at any point in time think that, hey, I could just as well do something else, you will just give up on the way, because it is pretty damn tough. And it's the same with entrepreneurship. It's like, it's much easier to take a job, get paid well, get the paycheck every month, fly business class here and there. If you're in an executive position, as I say, you get kind of free sushi on Fridays and free massages. That's a better subsistence for many people. But entrepreneurs, they live in tents. They live from hand to mouth. they will definitely have kind of 2 to 3 years of their life, which is incredibly tough, not only of them, but on their family and their friends. So you need to be very serious about succeeding. And you need to realize that you're going into this space where if failure starts creeping into your mind, or you get a mindset that failure is okay, you will not succeed. So I literally tell all our entrepreneurs, it's like, hey, call all your friends, call all your family, in the same way as, my family knew when I went into the military, is that they won't hear from me for a while. Like, call all of them and tell them, I'm building a business. I'm fully focused on this. If you want to talk to me, I'm happy to talk to you, but I'll talk to you about my business. Except if you have children, then you should probably spend some time with them, right? So I think that mindset side and the grit and this ability to never give up is the number one learning that I got through those experiences. And I think it serves everyone well who are starting and are thinking about building their own business, because you should think through it first. It's going to be hard, and you got to come in there with the right mentality that you will succeed.
Definitely. I just want to touch upon one thing. When you went to Harvard, I think you mentioned the Mark Zuckerberg, he created Facebook there, but another interesting story, I think, is that did you train with the Cameron and Tyler Winklevoss twins during that time?
Yeah, well, definitely. So, I came in there and obviously had, came in from my glacier job and, been in the military before, and, was in reasonable physical shape, and wanted to do some sports at Harvard, and figured out that the rowing team is pretty good. So they have the world's best rowing teams there, and I came on as a walk-on, and started rowing, and obviously at the time, you spend a lot of time with the people you train with. So obviously we got to know these guys, and there was another Norwegian there at the time who also was an incredible rower. He was, I think, junior Norwegian champion, Knut Klok. So there was another Norwegian there who's currently living in Oslo, and just a tremendous environment. And obviously the Winklevoss twins, were involved, as a lot of people know, in the early days of Facebook, and since then they have become some of the biggest people within cryptocurrencies globally, and now have their own cryptocurrency exchange. And I think at some point of time they owned 1% of the world Bitcoin supply. And it's quite exciting with these type of people who, they excelled in sports. They, who knows how they were involved in the early days of Facebook, but obviously they were involved somehow, because there was some settlement there, which paid out pretty well. And now they're doing incredibly well, disrupting a whole new industry. So hats off to them. I mean, they've helped change the world fundamentally within 3 different areas. I guess you can't really change the world through rowing really fast, but at least they were leading in that. But 2 others, I think they definitely made a big impact on the world, and I think they will continue to innovate and do well.